It's a Sunday evening and I'm just lying on my bed, scrolling. I've been on Instagram Reels for God knows how many hours, and I've got that Sunday afternoon depression. At the start of your weekend, you were optimistic. You thought you'd be productive. Since you have 2 whole days to revise for that test, you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get all this work done. But what actually happened was you spent your weekend away, just slumped in your bed, scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, ignoring the pile of work that was sitting on your desk that needed to be completed. And as I was scrolling, I knew I had to do the work, but I just couldn't get myself out of bed to do the work. And then a notification pops up on my screen. The new best way to study, 2024, ace all your tests. And naturally, I click on it and watch it. It's pretty interesting, you know? And they talk about a new study method that I hadn't known about before. And this leads to a rabbit hole of me just looking at video after video, learning about study method after study method, study tip after study tip. I stumble on the videos that advertise these cool websites that will all help for revision, and then I save down all of them to use later. But I don't end up using them later. I don't even end up getting out of bed. I just scroll and scroll. And before I know it, my weekend is over and I just wasted away. Study tips, study methods are littered over YouTube. They're everywhere. You can probably tell me 10 different study techniques and 15 different resources and 20 different study tips you've learned, right? Because by now you know all of them. You've watched videos from me, from everyone else, and you're just basically like so well versed in studying. But then why is it that you can't actually get yourself to study? You don't even get the chance to use these study tips because you can't get yourself to actually do the studying. Right now, you're at this point. You're lying on your bed, resting, but you need to study, and the studying is here. But all the YouTubers talk about and all that you learn about, like the study tips and techniques, they're all for this block here, right? The studying area. You need to get here to use that. But actually, what no one ever talks about is the linkage between here when you're scrolling and resting and actually getting yourself to study there. Sure, it's all good if you can get yourself there, you can use all those tips, you'll have a good study productivity session, but a lot of people actually struggle to get from point A to point B. There's no bridge in between these two places. We need that vehicle, and that's what I'm going to be teaching you today. Right now, you're like this explorer. They've mapped out all the mountain paths they want to explore. They prepare their best gear, and they've been really like knuckling down on this, right? They know what to do when the weather's bad. They know like the optimal way to breathe, the best time to eat food, how to stretch their interior plexus shoulder, inner deltoid muscle, but they never end up going on the expedition. I've never heard of a study YouTuber ever talk about this, but you relate so much, right? You know what you have to do. You even know all the study techniques, how to study well, but you actually never end up studying. So you don't even end up using all those tips, and all your preparation goes to waste. You're like that explorer who prepared his whole life, but he never actually stepped out on his expedition. And so the guy with like Crocs who didn't prepare, didn't even know the name of the mountain he was going to be climbing, and just like climbed up the mountain regardless. They made more progress than you, and that sucks, right? And that was me for the longest time. I was equipped with so much knowledge about studying. I knew my Pomodoro 1, 2, 3 ABCD methods. I knew like the best time to study was like in the morning because like it's 6 hours your temperature minimum. Bro, I knew all this, but I could never get myself to study, so I never end up using these. And the reason is simple. Because when you're at school, you're in an environment where everyone is studying. You have one lesson after the next, so you're in study mode. It's easy for you to study and it's no problem. But after you come home from school and you're resting on your bed, lying down, just having like a chill time, you're actually getting yourself into another mode called rest mode, because it's been recently proven that your brain actually operates in different modes. So it's not like your brain's in like one state this whole day. It actually changes. So going from this rest mode to study mode, there's actually a lot of friction, and that's why we struggle to make that change. That's why on the weekend, although you have more time to like spend time doing studying, like all these other different things, you don't end up using all that time productively because your brain's in rest mode. So it's harder for you to like get yourself to study on these days. When you're in rest mode, your body wants to conserve energy, and so naturally your brain starts to reduce movement and like cognitive movingness. And because most of us like sit still or like just like lay down and rest on our beds, our brain's level of processing power is very low. And although you may not know it, the most important part is that you're being still, you're immobile, therefore your optic flow is very low. And Dr. Andrew Huberman actually talks about this. And optic flow is like kind of this thing that's triggered when you move around, and it wakes up your brain, you feel more alert, and you can make more rational decisions and get ready for work. Why do you think it's that when you're on your bed and you're just scrolling, you know in that moment it's something you shouldn't be doing, you know it's bad, you want to stop, but you just end up not, right? It's actually because your brain's like prefrontal cortex, your rational decision making, all of these things are limited because your optic flow is very low. It's counterintuitive. It's like if you know something's bad, it should be a case of like you just don't do it, but that's actually not how it works. The first step into getting yourself into study mode from rest mode is to let your brain know it's time for studying or work. And the easiest way to do this is to move around. Increase optic flow. That's why it's actually proven scientifically that take a walk, that's when you get your best ideas. Just walking around the house will make you more motivated to study as your brain is activated. Doing activities like tidying your room, cleaning the house, these physical movement activities all stimulate better mood, more rational thoughts because of optic flow. And so next time you can't find yourself studying and you think it's the fact that you don't know enough study techniques, it's the study methods, just know that that's not the problem. It's the fact that you can't get into optic flow. And you know what? Let me tell you a study tip right now that you can use. Before you study, raise your arm, hold it like this and slap yourself. Because by just watching one of those study videos without actually taking action, you're just making it harder for you to actually go and study. You're becoming like more still, you're just lying there, not taking action. It's not your brain telling your body to move. It's actually the movement that stimulates your brain. What's the point of it consuming more study2 content, learning the XLM and NOPU QRS study method if you're never going to end up sitting at your desk and using it? And another way to actually get yourself motivated to study is to have a ritual. Michael Phelps was the world's most decorated Olympic athlete with 28 medals. And he had a ritual. He used to listen to this specific 6-minute song, like left foot in front, right foot in front, like 2 deep breaths, like he'd breathe in for his nose, out for his mouth, and he'd do like this stretch, and then he'd listen to another song. The point is he had this same ritual. Every successful athlete, student, and winner has a ritual. Because if you think about it, you need time to settle into study mode. The transition between any 2 steps, pre-game to post-game, like during the game where you need to get into your best performance, there needs to be a transition period and your brain needs to know. So before you study, make yourself a ritual. Make your brain know it's time for studying. For me, I like to get up, go downstairs and get a drink of water. Afterwards, I do some pull-ups, sit down and get all my books out and then start studying. And this ritual ticks off the box of optic flow as well as being consistent. So unconsciously, like as I'm going downstairs to drink water, my brain's prepping me for study mode. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm hyped up for the study session, and I come here, put all my books out and I just get straight to it. But if you're going to be scrolling on your phone and just like doing it as you rest, you may as well be learning while you do that, right? I was doing Brilliant on my phone for revision for a maths test and my friend saw it and asked, what game is that? And that's because Brilliant makes learning feel like a game. I try to cut down like the time on my phone and useless apps, and the first place to replacing them isn't just to cut all of them out, it's to replace them with better apps and habits that will get you to your goal faster. And if you want to get better grades, you want to study better, the first step of this is installing apps on your phone that are going to benefit your learning, and Brilliant is one of these. It makes learning fun but also interactive, and it has all these free courses that allow you to see the models in action so you can actually learn maths in a fun and engaging way. You guys know how much I love doing revision like public transport, and I say if you don't feel like you have time, utilizing those times is really important. You can do Brilliant on your phone to master the topics you need. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/JSpark or click on the link in the description. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Don't make the mistake that I did. Studying is something difficult, and the reason this whole time like these study tips weren't working for you isn't because like you hadn't found like your perfect soulmate study tip. It was because you didn't know how to transition from rest to studying, and that's something that nobody talks about. You knew all these tips, you just didn't know how to get in the vehicle, travel there and get started on that thing. But now you do. And if you want to learn more from me, make sure to check out my online community when I give lectures and calls with exclusive guests. But as always, take action and I'll see you next time. And so as we discussed in this video, studying isn't that like boring thing that you think is just like on your desk for hours and hours. In fact, it's something different, and I've built all these systems from the ground up. And as you guys might have heard last week, I'm working on a massive project, one that might just make you the best student in your class, like change studying for you forever. And if this sounds interesting, make sure you subscribe to my email list below so that you're the first to hear about it. And as always, take action and I'll see you next time.